This video is intended to help you when creating or editing reports, so that the report is self-explanatory and therefore easier to understand by anyone who uses it or who receives it as an attachment to an email in their inbox. To begin, let's look at this list of reports. I have deliberately used tags to group my reports into those with good names and descriptions and those with bad. As you can see, the group of reports tagged bad offer no real indication as to their purpose, but you would have a pretty good chance of understanding the good reports without having to open them. As we step through these tips, I will be demonstrating how you can improve a report to make it far more useful. We are going to use my currently bad report called Array Information as a worked example. Note that in order that we can compare our final report to the report we started with, we're going to create a copy and edit that. Firstly, let's go into the report and start to see how we can improve things. At the moment, if this report was opened by someone who had never seen it, it will take them a few moments to understand the information being presented and the story that the report is trying to tell. This report appears to show read and write IOPS and latency for the top 10 pure flash volumes. However, we cannot determine whether any of these charts are filtered, so right now we don't know if those are the top 10 flash volumes in a particular array or in the whole storage estate that is being monitored. A quick check of a chart shows us that the data is being filtered to the pure flash array called pure FA405. This brings us to our first tip. Use informative names and useful descriptions. Ask yourself, could someone else determine what my report was created for simply from the name and the description? Notice that I've also set the tag to be good so that this report is grouped with our better reports. So now we have cloned our report and are ready to make some real improvements. We know that each chart is specifically filtered on the array pure FA405. This is fine, assuming that we never want to examine any other pure array, but in general it's bad practice. And this brings us to our second tip. Create and use report variables wherever possible. Although this may not help make the report any more self-explanatory, it does increase its usability. So let's add a report variable of the type pure flash array. And we can set this variable to our pure flash array FA405. And now we can edit the first chart so that its filter uses the pure flash array variable instead of the specific storage array name. Whilst we are editing the chart, let's take the opportunity to give the chart a more informative name. And we are going to use the report variable we just created as we do that. Now that we have edited the first chart, I'm going to edit the other three in exactly the same way. All four charts are now using the report variable. Since our report is about both IOPS and latency, we might find it useful to clearly separate these charts into two clear sections. This leads us to tip 3. Use row headers to create and describe sections of a report. The charts on our top row show IOPS, both read and write. Let's add a row header, and we are going to use our report variable. Similarly for the bottom row. And now we have sectioned the two rows of our report to clearly show IOPS and latency. Our next enhancement to our chart relates to callouts. Callouts allow you to place comments inside a chart and can be a very useful tool to enhance your report. However, this leads us to our fourth tip. Use callouts, but use them appropriately. I have just added a callout to two of the charts. The green callout on the top row is a comment about the chart, and although the callout may cover data points in the future, it would be okay to save the report. The blue callout on the bottom row, however, is highlighting something specific about data in the chart. This may be fine if right now you are exporting this report to a PDF or saving it in a report snapshot, but it may not be wise to save the report with this particular callout present. By way of example, let's change the report's time frame from the 2 hours earlier to bring it up to date. You can see that the blue callout in the lower chart is now not relevant to the data the chart now contains. Our last tip relates to an often overlooked chart type, and that is freeform charts. Use freeform charts to provide additional information. Freeform charts allow you to insert free text as well as pictures or even hyperlinks into your report. This can be very useful in order to provide more information about your report. For example, who created it, why it was created, and how the data should be interpreted. This type of information is especially useful if you were to email this report in a PDF format to people who do not use VirtualWisdom. A hypertext URL might, for example, open another VirtualWisdom report or a specific page in your CMDB, or it could even link to a video chat application. I have added 2 freeform charts to the top of my report and have provided information that will be useful to anyone who has never seen this report before. And when I come back to this report in 6 months' time and wonder why I created it, this information will even be useful to me. One final point. Whilst the report is currently saved with the storage array variable set to pure FA405, a user could change this variable to focus the report on any other pure flash storage array. Therefore, I have renamed this report to something more generic and appropriate. Finally, let's compare the report we started with to the report we turned it into. And even though the data in the charts is unchanged between the two reports, it is clear which report is not only easier on the eye, but easier to use, not just by us, but by anyone who opens it. So to summarise, use informative names and useful descriptions. Create and use report variables wherever possible. Use row headers to create and describe sections of a report. Use callouts, but use them appropriately. And use freeform charts to provide additional information. I hope you found these tips useful, and thank you for watching.